So today I'm going to be redrawing every single US state. I'm going to be going to every single US state and completely redrawing them. So for example, I might make Washington annex all of Oregon and Idaho to form Cascadia. I could make Texas have all of its old lands back, and so on and so forth. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And let's get started. So I'm going to be going in alphabetical order. So first off, we have Alabama. When I'm doing this, I'm going to try to use mountain borders and state borders as often as possible. I'm also going to maybe mix in a little bit of the old territorial claims. So to start off, Alabama is going to be taking over Florida's panhandle. So they're going to follow the river a little bit and take over all of their panhandle. So that is Alabama now. Next off, Alabama will be taking over Mississippi's panhandle. And just like that, Greater Alabama has been formed. So they've taken land from Florida and Mississippi and have expanded their empire. The next state up is Alaska. First off, Alaska is going to conquer the land in Washington that is outside of the Cascade Range. Then they'll follow their border down and round off in Northern California. They're also going to take land from Canada, but Canada isn't shown on this map. So here we have Greater Alaska. Now I know everyone's thinking that I got this from Geopacks. And yes, I kind of did. I was inspired by him, but instead of doing it in shorts, I'm going to be doing it all in one video, possibly two. I don't know how long this is going to take. The next state up is Arizona. First, they're going to conquer all of Southern California and gain a coastline. Then they're going to take some parts of Nevada. And finally, they're going to conquer half of New Mexico, meeting up at the Rio Grande River. So now we have Greater Arizona, and honestly, this state looks really good. And by that, I mean the borders look pretty good. And the next state up is Arkansas. I really don't know what to do about my face being so white. Like, I have this little light right here, but I don't think that helps. Anyway, Arkansas is going to be following the Arkansas River all the way up into Oklahoma, so they'll take over northeastern Oklahoma, and then they're going to follow it all the way into Kansas and take over all of the river land. Finally, Arkansas is going to take over southern Missouri and the boot of Missouri. And now Arkansas extends all the way into Kansas. This one looks weird, but it's following a river, so. The next state up is California. First, California is going to take over all of Nevada. Then they're going to take some of the coast of Oregon. And finally, all of southwestern Arizona. Finally, California has an empire. The borders of which are kind of weird looking, but hey, they got more land than they used to. The next state up is Colorado. First, Colorado is going to take over half of Utah, a corner of Arizona, and a good portion of northern New Mexico. Next, they're going to take a little bit of Oklahoma's panhandle, and just like that, the Great Mountain Empire has been formed. They've taken the mountains away in Utah and Arizona, as well as the northern mountains of New Mexico. I was going to give them more mountains up here in Wyoming, but that would just kind of make them look like a giant blob, which isn't really the point of this video. The next state up is Connecticut. First, they're going to take over Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and then they're going to conquer all of southern New York and New York City, as well as a part of New Jersey. And just like that, the Connecticut and what do you call yourselves? But anyway, the Connecticut Empire has been formed. I'm pretty sure everyone in New York is happy about this one, because now they don't have Long Island. The next state up is Delaware. First, they're going to conquer all the Delmarva Peninsula, so Maryland and Virginia will be ceding over their eastern shore lands. Next up, they're going to be taking over southern New Jersey, and Delaware has accomplished Greater Delaware. And the next state up is Florida. First, they're going to conquer the coastline of Alabama and Mississippi, and meet up around New Orleans. Next, they're going to be taking land from Georgia and Alabama, and finally meeting up at the Alabama-Mississippi border. Now, Florida man has an empire. I'm kind of curious on how some of these surrounding states would react to this. Like, maybe Mississippi and Alabama would like reform the southern states. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the actual name of the rebellion, but that place. The next state up is Georgia. First, Georgia's going to take over all of South Carolina, and next they'll take over all of northern Florida. This is probably my favorite, state and empire so far. This one just looks really clean. And Florida will probably finally have a rival in the south. The next state up is Hawaii. For Hawaii, they're going to be conquering all of Southern California's coast. Now Hawaii is finally a contiguous state and part of the lower 49. The next state up is Idaho. First, they'll be taking over the eastern parts of Oregon and Washington, and finally, they'll be taking over western Montana. Now, Potato Land is squiggly. I don't like it at all. But hey, at least they got land. Honestly, I think that Idaho's borders are good how they are. I mean, first we have a straight line border, which sometimes those are like relief. Then we have like a river border. I'm not sure about that one, but I know this is a river border, so yeah, I don't know. I guess Idaho's borders are just appealing to me. Anyway, the next state up is Illinois. First, they're going to be spitting out Chicago, and then they're going to be conquering western Indiana, along with southern Wisconsin. Now everybody outside of Chicago is happy. The next state up is Indiana. First, they're going to be taking over southwestern Michigan, and then southeastern Wisconsin and Chicago. They're also going to be conquering a part of western Ohio. Continuing on in the Midwest, the next state up is Iowa. First, they're going to be following the Missouri River up into South Dakota, and then the Mississippi River up into Minnesota. From there, they'll connect their lands in North Dakota. Now the chef hat of Iowa has been connected to them. The more I look at it, the more it just looks like a chef hat. This wasn't intentional, but this looks good. Anyway, the next state up is Kansas. First, they're going to be taking over Kansas City, and then they'll form a new four corners with Colorado, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Finally, they're going to be taking some land from Nebraska. When I fix these state borders, I try to follow geography, but in the Midwest, is it the Midwest, or I guess the plains area of the country, there really isn't any geography. The next state up is Kentucky. First, Kentucky is going to be creating a new four corners with Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee in themselves. And next, they're going to be moving up into West Virginia. And next, they're going to follow the river border in Tennessee and get really close to Nashville. Now, fried chicken is more popular. Next up, we have Louisiana. Now, for this one, I could just give over the entire country to Louisiana, but that's kind of boring, so I'm going to be narrowing it down a little bit. I'm still going to give them a lot of land because, I mean, they had like all of this, but like I said, that's kind of boring, so let's give them a little bit less land. First off, Louisiana is going to be conquering eastern Texas. Next, they're going to be taking over southern Mississippi. Next, they'll be taking over all of Arkansas, all of eastern Oklahoma, and finally southern Missouri and the boot of Missouri. Finally, Louisiana has gone up a size in shoes. They are no longer a tiny boot, they are now a ginormous boot. The next state up is Maine. All of New England is going to be united under Maine's rule. Now, all of the New England states are known for lobsters. The next state up is Maryland. First, they're going to be conquering all of DC, then they'll conquer Delaware and Virginia's eastern shore. From there, they're going to be conquering all of Northern Virginia and parts of the panhandle of West Virginia. Now, the entire Mid-Atlantic region is united under one country, or I guess state. I don't know. I guess state, country, empire. The next state up is Massachusetts. First off, they're going to be conquering Rhode Island and all of Maine. Next, they're going to be taking over southern New Hampshire. Now, New England is number one on every list, which isn't true because Massachusetts isn't number one on every list, but they're number one on a majority of the list. Next up is Michigan. First, they're going to be conquering all of eastern Wisconsin. Next, they're going to be moving into Illinois and Indiana. They'll take over Toledo and northern Ohio. And finally, they're going to be conquering all of eastern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. Now, Michigan is known as the Great Lake Empire, although they don't have Lake Erie, but that's fine. Next state up is Minnesota. First, they'll take all of northern Wisconsin and the western upper peninsula. Now, Minnesota is known as Superior Minnesota because of the lake, though. And the next state up is Mississippi. First, they're going to be conquering all of southeast Louisiana, and then they'll be moving north to follow the Mississippi River. Now, Mississippi is Mississippi again. Next up is Missouri. First, they're going to be taking all of eastern Kansas, and then southeastern Nebraska. And finally, their conquest is complete after conquering all of southern Iowa. Now, Missouri somewhat resembles their old territory. Somewhat. They definitely don't look anything like it, but they, it's more land. Up next is Montana. First, they're going to be conquering all of eastern Washington and northern Idaho. Then they'll take a part of northwestern Wyoming. Now, Montana has been re-achieved. Leave a comment if you got that reference, because I don't think a lot of people are going to get the reference, because it's a pretty old video. But if you do know the reference, leave a comment. Nebraska is the next state up. First, they're going to follow the Missouri River up north and take over parts of South Dakota. And finally, Wyoming will cede land over to Nebraska. Now, Nebraska is known for Mount Rushmore. I'm sure that South Dakota is not happy about this one. Up next, we have Nevada. First off, Nevada will be taking over Southern California. And next, they'll be taking away Salt Lake City from Utah. Finally, they'll take over a part of Southern Idaho. And just like that, gambling is now legal in a lot more places in the country. Next up, we have New Hampshire. First, they're going to be taking over Vermont. And next, they'll be taking over northern Massachusetts. I have no idea what to say for New Hampshire because I know nothing about New Hampshire. Anyway, there you go, New Hampshire. You conquered Vermont and took over a bit of Massachusetts. Anyway, the next state up is New Jersey. First, they'll conquer all of southern New York and Long Island. And finally, they'll be taking over northern Delaware. And at last, now even more people hate New Jersey. Up next is New Mexico. First, they'll take over the panhandle of Texas. And then they'll take over about half of Arizona. Now, Breaking Bad is more well known across the country. The next state on the list is New York. First, New York is going to be taking over northern New Jersey. And then all of western Connecticut. Finally, they'll take over all of Vermont. Finally, the Empire State is actually an empire. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I love these borders. These are my favorite borders now. Moving on south, the next state up is North Carolina. First, North Carolina is going to conquer all of South Carolina, and then they'll conquer southeastern Virginia. Finally, they'll take over a little bit of land from Georgia, and just like that, the Carolinian Empire has been established. Moving up north, we have North Dakota up next. First, they're gonna conquer all of South Dakota, and then they'll conquer all of northern Minnesota. And just like that, New Canada has been established. Up next, we have Ohio. First, they'll take West Virginia's northern panhandle, and then they'll be taking all of western Pennsylvania. Next, they'll conquer Toledo and take over southern Michigan, and from here, they'll take over the entire country. Now, it's all Ohio. Just kidding, but these borders are also pretty nice. The next state up is Oklahoma. First they'll take over northern Texas, and then southern Kansas. Now Oklahoma's borders make literally no sense. Moving on over to the west coast, we have Oregon. First they'll take out all of Washington, and then all of northern California. And finally, Oregon isn't just known for Portland. Moving on over to the east, we have Pennsylvania up next. First they'll take parts of western New York, and then parts of Ohio and West Virginia. They'll also take the panhandle of Maryland. Finally, they'll take southern New Jersey to get access to the Atlantic. Now Pennsylvania has access to the sea and also has crazy borders. Up next, we have Rhode Island. First we'll take over Connecticut, and then all of Massachusetts coast. Now Rhode Island isn't the smallest state anymore. Moving to the south, we have South Carolina. First they'll take over all of North Carolina, and then form a river border with Georgia. Now South Carolina is the only Carolina. Now moving right over to another south version of another state, we have South Dakota. First they'll take out North Dakota, and then move into Nebraska. And here is the finished product for South Dakota. So the Mount Rushmore state is huge. In fact, it might be one of the biggest states in the US now. Up next, we have Tennessee. First, they'll conquer Kentucky, and then Western Virginia. Now country music has expanded, and all of these surrounding states have to listen to country music 24/7. Up next is Texas. First they'll take over Oklahoma's panhandle, and then follow the Rio Grande River in New Mexico. From there they'll take a piece of Kansas, and then split Colorado into two. They'll also take a chunk out of Wyoming. Now the Texan Republic has been reestablished. Next up we have Utah. First they'll move into Arizona and take the land along the Arizona River, Colorado River, not Arizona River. And then they'll follow the river up in Idaho and Wyoming. Now the Mormons control a lot more land than they used to. They have two new river borders, and then their sides are literally just straight lines. Anyway, up next we have Vermont. First they're going to conquer New Hampshire, and then they'll take over some of Massachusetts. From there they're going to conquer a little bit of northern New York, and just like that, Bernie Sanders is very happy. His state has expanded. Up next we have Virginia. First they'll conquer West Virginia, and then they'll take some of Kentucky. Then they'll be taking over North Carolina's coast. Now Virginia is even closer to getting all of their land back, which if you didn't know, the territory of Virginia consisted basically all of the US and Canada. Moving over to the other side of the country, we have Washington. Washington is going to take over Oregon, and then all of northern Idaho. Now Cascadia has been reunited. Back over to the east, we have West Virginia up next. First they'll take over Maryland's panhandle. Next they're going to take over a majority of the Appalachian Mountains. Now country roads have finally taken us home. Also West Virginia is going to rename to Appalachia, which is what they should have done when they broke away from Virginia. You know, instead of being West Virginia, which is a terrible name, they could have just been Appalachia. Next up, we have Wisconsin. First, they'll take over the Upper Peninsula. Then they'll reverse Peninsula Michigan and take over all of northern Michigan. Now the roles have reversed, and Wisconsin has a piece of land in Michigan. And finally, the last state we have up is Wyoming. Now, instead of deleting Wyoming, because Wyoming doesn't even exist, I'll probably be giving them land. First, they'll take land from Montana, following a river border, and then they'll take land in Utah and Colorado, conquering the Rockies. Now Wyoming exists, and it's pretty weird looking. So that's gonna do it for me redrawing every single US state's borders. Now I'm pretty sure I've gotten every state, but there is a chance that I missed one, but looking at this, I'm like 100% sure that I didn't miss any state. Once again, this video was inspired by GeoFact's series of redrawing US states. I initially had this idea a while ago, but then he started to blow up, and I was like, well, if I do this, people are gonna say I'm copying him, and then it would just be like, everyone's calling me a copycat, so I didn't do it. But whatever, I've decided to do it now. I want you guys in the comments to tell me what your favorite redrawn state was. For me, I think I'm gonna go with New York. But if you guys saw a state that you really like the borders of, make sure to tell me in the comments. Also, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. That shows me that you're enjoying these videos. Once again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.